is the start of something big. I believe that today is the day we start to shift the entire trajectory of this ministry. Today is the day we begin opening the door of this chronological timeline that leads us to the ascension of Jesus Christ. This door, this timeline, this series, this story, I believe is going to provide a level of clarity and alignment that not only speaks to us as individuals, but it also speaks into who we are as a body of Christ. So if you're ready to dive in and see what God has in store for all of us, history in the making, somebody shout at me, let's go. Somebody shout at me, let's go. So here's what you need to know about the story we're about to dive into. Jesus, what's his name? What's his name? What's his name? I love it when you say his name. What's his name? Jesus at this point has gathered all 12 of his disciples. He has already performed most of all of his public miracles. We're at the part of the story where we're nearing the end of his earthly life. Jesus is becoming increasingly frustrated. Yeah, he had human emotions too. We're at the part of the story where he's growing increasingly frustrated with his environment and what's going on around him. He's slightly angry because he's been performing all of these divine miracles and people are still questioning his authenticity. Have you ever only been the real one amongst a bunch of fake ones and they look at you like you oughta? There's tension between Jesus and the Sanhedrin, this Jewish ruling council. The Sanhedrin, they enforced the Torah, the 613 laws, Old Testament. But the Sanhedrin, they're hypocrites. They're what? They don't practice what they preach. They're telling you to live holy, but they're living in sin. They're telling you to do better when they're doing bad. They're not practicing what they preach. And this Jewish ruling council, it's comprised of the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the chief priests, and the leaders of religious law. They were this religious group that held political power. I said, that's a double whammy. So now we're picking up the story after a message has been sent to Jesus to inform him that his friend is sick. Come by here to tell somebody the title of the message today is You Can't Stop Me. Because whatever it is, whoever you are, whatever you try, I said, whatever it is, whoever you are, whatever you try, y'all gonna get with me in a minute. I said, whatever it is, whoever you are, whatever you try, somebody shout, Jonah, put up the clue. So Jesus' best friend is sick. This friend of Jesus, his name is Lazarus. What's his name? This message was sent by the sick man's two sisters, Mary and Martha. Jesus gets this message and he says in John 11:4 that this sickness will not end in death. He says in the text that it happened, past tense. John 11:4. He says in text, it happened, past tense. Meaning that by the time Jesus received this message, Lazarus was already dead. He says in verse 4, it happened for the glory of God so that the Son of God will receive glory from this. Then Jesus stays there for another 2 days. He stays where he is at for another 2 days. Now remember, I just told you that there's tension building between Jesus and the Sanhedrin. They don't like that he's moving the way that he's moving. They don't like that he's performing miracles and healing the sick. They're accustomed to people living with their conditions. They're not accustomed to people living free of bondage. So there's tension. They're questioning his authenticity. Even some of his disciples are questioning. Jesus finally says to his disciples after 2 days, okay, let's go. In John 11:8. But his disciples objected. They said, Rabbi, only a few days ago the people in Judea were trying to stone you. Are you going there again? They're saying in this moment, it's not safe. You almost got stoned and killed there. They're saying your face is recognized there. They're saying your name is controversial there. They're saying you are a marked man there. They're asking, why would you want to go back? They're saying all of this, and yet they don't understand that when purpose is in motion, opposition loses control over your direction. I said, they don't understand that when purpose is in motion, opposition loses control over your direction. Why? Because whatever it is, whoever you are, whatever you try, you can't stop me. How many of you know that opposition at times can be a form of confirmation? What do I mean by this? If you know that you're doing the right thing around the wrong people and you're facing tension, this is a sign of confirmation. Because the enemy actually prefers when you are silent. The enemy actually prefers your absence. The enemy actually prefers your withdrawal. But there's something powerful about walking boldly back into an environment that tried to silence and or eliminate you. It says, you can try and stop the mission, but you can't stop me. And I don't know who this is for, but I've been sent by here to tell somebody, you have been anointed to step boldly back into an environment that you once left, so you can be the one to change it. The Lord told me to tell somebody under the sound of my voice, this time around it's going to be different because you're walking back into it with a stronger authority of the Lord. Go forth boldly, go forth boldly, go forth boldly, saith the Lord. He also wanted me to tell somebody under the sound of my voice, don't you worry about what they're going to say or what they're going to try to do, because they can't stop the mission and they cannot stop you. Go forth boldly, saith the Lord. Well, one of Jesus' disciples were bold. He was what? He was what? One of Jesus' disciples was bold. After Jesus said, let's go, and they objected, and Jesus doubled down on going back to Bethany, John 11:16 happened. It says, Thomas, who was nicknamed the twin, said to all of his fellow disciples, let's go too, and let's die with Jesus. I said, Thomas is a huckleberry. He said, let's go to and let's die with Jesus. Although this text is kind of laughable, it shows deep loyalty. This text proves that Thomas did not yet understand the authority that Jesus carried. Thomas did not yet understand the timing of which Jesus was operating in. Thomas did not yet understand the power that was about to be revealed in Bethany. Thomas interpreted this journey with Jesus as a suicide mission. Now, church, We just read in text that Thomas said, let's go to and die with Jesus. Did we not? So Thomas is stating that he's willing to die with Jesus. He is confirming that they're going on a suicide mission based off of what has previously happened. Whereas Jesus, he saw it as the ascension of a dead thing. Same trip, different vision. Church, this moment is proof that it can be. Are you ready? If you're ready, say I'm ready. Church, this moment is proof that some of the people that are physically closest to you will misinterpret your whole assignment spiritually. Some of the people that are physically closest to you will be the ones that misinterpret your whole assignment spiritually. And you need to know this, church. It's not personal. Thomas was still needed. He was needed to complete the 12 men assigned to Jesus. He was needed. Thomas just didn't have it to see it in order to walk in it and believe it. Did you catch it or did you miss it? Thomas was needed. He was needed to complete the 12 men assigned to Jesus. Thomas just didn't have it to see it in order to walk in it and believe it. After all, this is a suicide mission. I'm ready to die. But Thomas was still willing to roll with Jesus, and that counts for something. Church, there are people assigned to you that don't have the vision and or the authority to lead the path you are called to lead. But yet they're down to ride with you. When someone doesn't carry what you carry, they calculate differently. You need to account for it. Are y'all in the room? There are people that are assigned to you that do not have the vision and or the authority to lead the path that you are called to lead. But yet there are these types of people that are still down to ride with you. When someone does not carry what you carry, they calculate differently, and you have to account for that. And as you account for it, that's when you calculate the divide. Because your anointing, church, your anointing will always see the outcome. But their loyalty will observe the dangers attached to going and doing certain things with you. They're still down, they're just a little apprehensive. But notice how, church, can we notice something in the text? Can we know something in the text? Notice how when Thomas said this, let's go to and die with Jesus. Notice how Jesus never responded to Thomas. Jesus just led him. And that's a message for somebody. Try to understand their heart and not the offense that comes from them. Try to understand their heart and not the offense that comes from them not understanding who and what you are. Just lead them. If they're willing to roll with you, just lead them. Jesus led Thomas and his disciples, and it says in John 11:17 in your word ups, when Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave 4 days. How many days? The text also states when Jesus arrived where? When Jesus arrived where? Bethany. That's okay. That's okay. But this is the thing, church. It may be a little bit funny, but I would rather correct it so we are all on the same page than to have somebody, amen? Let's run that back, 11:17. When Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave 4 days. He arrived where? Oh, okay. Here's what I can tell you. Everything that is going to come out of this pulpit for the next 7 weeks has meaning. and I'm going to pull on your intellect, and it's like the Avengers movie. You get one piece here from Black Panther. You get another piece here from Spider-Man. You get one piece here from Thor. And then when Endgame shows up, it all makes sense. If you're tracking, say I'm tracking. So running that back, he arrived where at? Oh, okay. When Jesus arrived, Martha, Lazarus' sister, she came out to meet him. Then eventually Mary came out to meet him. They both uttered the exact same sentence at two different times, noted in John 11:21 and John 11:32. If you're taking notes, John 11:21 and John 11:32. They both said, "Oh Lord, if only you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died." Jesus responds in John 11:34 through 44. He says, "Where have you put him?" And they told him, "Lord, come and see." Church, I read verse 34 and I had to stop. And the reason I had to stop is because something hit my spirit. I noticed how Jesus asked, "Where have you put him?" And when I read that, my spiritual antennas went up. Because God is a God that will ask you to locate the dead thing before he can resurrect it. Can I talk to y'all today? Are we tracking? God is a God. Now, we just read in text, he asked, "Where have ye laid him?" God is a God that will ask you to locate the dead thing before he can show up to resurrect it. Before a resurrection can take place, you have to locate what's dead. And hear me clearly, church, when I say this. There can be something buried that you didn't even know that you buried it. Did you know that there's a difference between burying something that needs to die, burying something that needs to live, and burying something due to lack of obedience? Are y'all's wheels turning? There is a difference between burying something that needs to die, burying something that needs to live, and burying something due to lack of obedience. And what's ironic, church, is the enemy tries to make it easy for you to get these burials mixed up. He wants you confused. He doesn't want you knowing what do I mean by this, church? What am I saying? I'm saying you can purposely bury something that no longer suits your purpose. You can purposely bury a relationship that's toxic. You can accidentally bury a promise. You can accidentally bury a vision, a drive, and or a calling. Then you can bury the very thing that needs to survive due to lack of your obedience. There are 3 different funerals. There are 3 different funerals you need to be able to identify in order for you to experience the right resurrection. Church, the first funeral is the funeral of obedience. The funeral of obedience is burying what needs to die. If you're tracking, say I'm tracking. The funeral of obedience is burying what needs to die. It is the pruning. And how do you know something needs to die in your life? I know some of you are like, okay, Pastor, you're saying the funeral of obedience, make it make sense, practicality. Okay. You know something needs to die in your life because it violates your calling. It is the very thing that pulls you backward. It is the very thing that pulls you away from God. It is the very thing that feeds your ego. It's your insecurities running your world. It's all of the pointless distractions that you feed into. It's whatever you are addicted to. And it's your love for comfort. Oh, no. It draws from you without ever producing fruit. It doesn't produce fruit. It doesn't produce oil. It doesn't add to your anointing. It doesn't produce multiplication. God has withdrawn the grace from it, and you feel heavy when you do it. Your peace decreases every time you do this thing. You find yourself only doing it to maintain your image. You don't want it to look like you have failed, so you continue to do it. You don't want to let people down, so you continue to do it. You want to seem solid, so you continue to do it. So you preserve what heaven has already cut off. So if you have identified yourself partaking in some of what's violating your calling, or partaking in something that is only drawing from you, not producing any fruit in your life, it's time to have the funeral of obedience. And when you bury something that needs to die, there is grief. But underneath the grief, there is relief. Are we learning, church? When you bury something that needs to die, yes, there is grief, but underneath the grief is relief. You have number 2. The funeral of fear. The funeral of fear is burying something that needs to live. And this is different because this is when you decide to bury something because it got hard. This is when you bury something because it got criticized and you got in your emotions. This is when you bury something because it didn't move, it didn't come fast enough, or it scares you. This is when you decide to bury something because people misunderstood it. This is something you do not bury because it's dead. You bury it because it felt exposed. But here are the signs that you have buried something that needs a resurrection. Number 1 is it still carries a vision when you think about it. Some of us are sitting on so much poetry. And you've put the pen and pad down. But you find yourself throughout the week rhyming words and putting cadences together. And you find yourself thinking something in your mind and going like this around the kitchen. Or it could be every time you're driving in the neighborhood and you used to work in roofing. And you look at the roofs and you're like, man, I really wish I could help them. They need new shingles really bad. It could be you hear the car next to you pull up on the left-hand side and you hear the brakes squealing. Man, I'd love to get under there and help them out. You think of creative ways. You still carry a vision when you think about it. There's still a low burning fire, even if there's frustration present on the surface. And sometimes it scares you because it's bigger than you. But for some odd reason, it still keeps resurfacing. You try to move on, but it keeps coming back. It keeps coming back, whether it's in your prayer life, whether it's in your dreams, whether it's in conversations, or whether it's in your conviction. It's the thing you bury to avoid warfare. But how many of you know that warfare is the indicator that you are on the right track? So if you've tried to bury something because it got hard or harshly criticized, I came by here to tell you, you only buried a seed. And it is time to let God resurrect the fruit from your obedience to the calling. If you have tried to bury something because it got hard or harshly criticized, I've come by here to tell you, you have only buried a seed. And it is time to let God resurrect the fruit from your obedience to the calling. And lastly, the funeral of disobedience. The funeral of disobedience is burying something because of disobedience. It happens when something dies, not because God ended it, but because we stepped out of alignment. It sometimes starts out subtle. Sometimes it's willful. Sometimes it's delayed obedience that quietly turns into disobedience. What do I mean by that? It's I'll do it later until later never arrives. Here's how to know if you have buried something due to disobedience. You've ignored the conviction. Meaning you knew, you were well aware of what was happening, you just overrode it. You overlooked the red flags. But you try to logically justify what you overrode. When you silence conviction long enough, that's when calling begins to decay. That's when peace leaves before you see the progress. I know that's right. No. Externally, it may still look alive, but internally, clarity has faded and the joy has thinned out. See, when something dies through obedience, there's grief with peace. We just learned that, right, church? When something dies through fear, there's a regret with longing to want to see it thrive again. I'm gonna run this back. When something dies through fear, there's regret with a longing to want to see it thrive again. And when something dies through disobedience, there's a weight that never leaves. So with all three of these funerals, church, the final feeling will either be I released it with the funeral of obedience, I had to protect myself with the funeral of fear, or I mishandled it with the funeral of disobedience. With all three of these funerals, the final feeling will either be I released it with the funeral of obedience, I had to protect myself with the funeral of fear, or I mishandled it with the funeral of disobedience. Church, your job is to use these keys to identify what needs to stay in the dirt and what needs to come up. Your job is to now use these keys to identify what needs to stay in the dirt and what needs to come up. Jesus was showing up to the funeral of his friend. And it says in verse 35 that Jesus wept. And what we are witnessing here is the funeral of obedience. And why is this the funeral of obedience? It's because Lazarus, church, is no longer producing fruit. He's no longer producing oil. They feel that God has withdrawn the grace from him, and even though they feel heavy sticking him in a tomb, his time is up. They can no longer sit there and pretend his dead body is conducive to their future. He stinks. 4 days he's been in the grave. He's 96 hours past his expiration date. But little do they know that Lazarus' purpose was solely tied to his death. Somebody say, Pastor, what you talking about? Church, did you know that the name Lazarus in Greek literally means the one whom God has helped? Lazarus' name in Greek literally means the one whom God has helped. So before resurrection ever happened, death had to be a part of his prophetic destiny in order for him to fulfill it. Jesus wept, the text says. We know by this point Jesus is angry. I've already told you that Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. And yet the closest people to me, they still don't get it. Jesus is angry at this point. I've already told you that Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. And yet the closest people to me, they still don't get it. They still don't believe. Mary and Martha still seem to doubt my ability. I'm weeping because, Lord, is what I'm doing even making a difference? Mary and Martha, they don't even get it because they're crying in front of me instead of rejoicing that I showed up. My disciples are saying, let's go die with him too. Lord, am I missing something? They're continuing to watch the scene when I'm trying to tell them I'm aware of the script. Church, sometimes you find yourself feeling let down and or weeping, not because you're unsure of your purpose, but because you've realized some of the ones closest to you haven't. You find yourself weeping, not because you lack seeing your purpose and operating in purpose. It's because the people closest to you, they don't see it. And that's the level of loneliness where you feel the cost of the vision before you see the fruit of it. This is the level of loneliness where you feel the cost of the vision before you see the fruit of it. And I've come by here to tell you, just like Jesus did, it's okay to weep. It's okay if your daddy doesn't see it in you. It's okay if your mommy don't see it in you. It's okay if your brother and your sister, your auntie, your uncle, they don't see it in you. It's okay to cry about it, but you got to keep moving forward. It says in verse 36, before I get you out of here, church, the people who were standing nearby said, see how much he loved him? But some said, this man healed the blind man. Couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying? Jesus was still angry. He was still what? He was still angry as he arrived at the tomb, a cave with a stone rolled across its entrance. He said, roll the stone aside. But Martha, the dead man's sister, protested. She said, Lord, he has been dead for 4 days. The smell will be terrible. Jesus responded, didn't I tell you that you would see God's glory if you believe? So they rolled the stone aside. And then Jesus looked up to heaven and said, Father, thank you for hearing me. I read verse 41, church, and I said, yeah, he thanked the Father because nobody else was hearing him. He says in verse 42, you always hear me, but I said it out loud for the sake of all these people standing here so that they will believe that you sent me. Then Jesus shouted, Lazarus, come out. And the dead man came out, his hands and his feet bound in grave clothes, his face wrapped in a headcloth. Jesus told them, unwrap him and let him go. Now, church, here's what you need to know about this moment as we set this up for the entire rest of this series. Here's what you need to know about this moment. Remember how I said earlier that the Sanhedrin had tension with Jesus? That they were at odds with each other? They were the religious group who held political authority. Well, this miracle did more than just raise Lazarus from the dead. And here's why. Church, this is the outside of Lazarus' tomb. This is the entryway of Lazarus' tomb. If you got it, say, I got it. This is not an AI rendering. This is what blows my mind that people doubt the Bible. This is Lazarus' tomb. If you got it, say, I got it. Photo number 2. Church, these are the stairs. You remember that blue door? Joni, can you go back to the first photo? This door, this blue door right here, you got it? Next photo. This is the door right here. These are the stairs going down. If you got it, say, I got it. Okay, next photo. This is the inside of Lazarus' tomb. Those stairs from the other photo, they lead down here into this tomb area here, and then this is another set of stairs that goes down. If you got it, say, I got it. Okay, so here's where I'm at with this. What's in the text that's not written in the text that's waiting on us to uncover within the text? Church, why am I showing you Lazarus' gravesite? I'm showing this to you because there was more than just one miracle performed in this moment. There was more that happened than just Lazarus being raised from the dead. So the obvious is Lazarus was raised from the... Then we have the supernatural strength he was given in order for him to stand up when he was bound in grave clothes. It was the ability to divinely see through his head wrappings in order to make it up the stairs. It was the ability to jump up the stairs to make it to Jesus. I said to myself, that's a 4-piece combo packed in a to-go plate. Yes, I said it. And I've come by here to tell somebody, this is the season where one miracle is about to multiply in your life. I don't know what has tried to bury you. I don't know who has tried to stop you, but I come by here to get you to repeat after me. Whatever it is, whoever you are, whatever you try, you can't stop me. Sometimes it needs to look impossible in order for you to come alive. Either way, you gotta declare, you can't stop me. I don't care if it's grave clothes, you can't stop me. I'm ascending up these stairs to fulfill my purpose. I don't care if I've been down 4 days, 4 weeks, 4 months, 4 years. I come by here to tell whatever it is, you can't stop me. I don't care if it's unbelief. I don't care if it's disobedience. I don't care if it's fear. I don't care if it's imposter syndrome. I come by here to tell somebody, declare with me, you can't stop me. This is your season. Well, I just said a moment ago that there was more that happened than just Lazarus being raised from the dead. We uncovered 4 miracles. How many? Well, I come by here to tell somebody, the Sanhedrin found out. Somebody say, then what happened next? You'll find out next week. Stand with me, church. I want somebody to repeat after me, Lord, it's me. I'm not perfect, and I'm not claiming to be. Lord, thank you for dying on the cross for my sins, my past sins, my current sins, and the sins I may commit tomorrow. Lord, I acknowledge you as the one true King. Write my name in your book of life, and I'll be careful to bring you the praise, the glory, the honor. Hey, if you recited that prayer, you have full coverage insurance on your soul. Now may God give you the strength, the endurance, and the discipline to carry out the plan and purpose He has for your life. Lord willing, part 2. I'll see you next week. Peace.